Hey, what's up? I want to take you guys back to a special time in my childhood. The year of our Lord 2010. It was Christmas, and me and my family were over at my grandparents' house. As the night came to a close, we were exchanging presents, and when the last present was unwrapped, we were blessed with a brand new Xbox 360. With a Kinect. Remember that? Remember the Kinect? What the hell were they thinking? Now, 6-year-old me was no stranger to video games. We had a Wii and a DS growing up, so I got to experience a lot of great games like Mario 64, Galaxy, Wii Sports, all the Lego games, and so many others. But moving from those to the 360, there was a bit of a tonal shift.
Okay.
You can't kill me! You shoot, GI, you shoot!
Yeah, needless to say, I don't think my dad was too fond of the idea of letting me play Black Ops that Christmas. I was, however, allowed to play the other COD game we picked up, Call of Duty 3. Now, Call of Duty 3 was already several years old by the time I got a chance to play it, being first unveiled in May of 2006 for E3 and getting released before the holidays several months later, console only. This game is notable for being the first major Call of Duty game developed by Treyarch, the only previous work on the series being a spin-off for Call of Duty 2. Treyarch had some big shoes to fill after the major acclaim and success of Infinity Ward's work on COD 2. They were barely known in the gaming space, with only a few notable titles in their decade-long existence. Not to mention that Call of Duty 3 would be a launch title not only for the Wii, but for the PlayStation 3. They were going up against Tiger Woods' PGA Tour 07, there was no dicking around. These guys were going to have to prove that they could do just as well, if not better, at the wheel of this franchise. And to that end, I think they succeeded. It's even more impressive to see what they accomplished, given they only had 8 months, which was, which might be a fast development. I'm not really a gamesman, so I'm not. Hang on, let me check.
That's a shame.
The first thing that's going to jump out at you when you first play Call of Duty 3 is the presentation. Now, I haven't played Call of Duty 2, but from my understanding, 3 essentially took the presentation format of that game and kicked it into 12th gear, incorporating more in-game cutscenes, orchestral cinematic music, and engaging narration.
Not this way, anyhow.
Copy that, Dix. Sarge.
Let's keep it dicks, okay?
You got it, Sarge.
The opening cutscene to this game is one of the most nostalgic gaming memories for me. You got this narrator dude who kind of reminds me of the opening narrator for the Clone Wars show.
The former City of Light waits for the Allies to arrive and lift the shadow that has fallen over Paris.
He's talking about everything really sucks because, it's a war, a big one, flashing all these real photos on screen, and all the while you have these German soldiers bearing down on you. You feel it. I sure as hell felt it. I was like, holy shit, this is serious. It's time to game. Something you gotta understand about Call of Duty 3 is it doesn't take the approach of being like a serious, gritty World War II game or a movie or something. It has the personality of one of those classic war movies like Kelly's Heroes or one of those old 90s History Channel documentaries. You know, the ones where the veterans are really solemn and serious and they're talking about the worst time in their entire lives, and then they bring out the historian and he's like, oh yeah, this shit rocked, this was the coolest shit ever, you gotta hear about this. And they got those really primitive 3D models and the intense music and shit.
Rather nebulous ideas and condense them down.
Obviously, that isn't the most accurate way to go up at this sort of thing, but it's kind of a product of its time. These developers likely grew up before most media started to really focus on the sobering realism of these conflicts, and before Treyarch themselves made a much more gritty war game a few years later with World at War. Overall, the presentation of this game is really effective, although sometimes it does get a little undercut by some of this game's wonkiness. It doesn't drag the game down too much, but it can kind of take you out of the immersion when you see it. But besides the cutscene and stuff, the game itself just has a great atmosphere to it. Right from the get-go, you're dropped into this American supply depot, and the whole place just has this calm and fun atmosphere. This is only undercut slightly by the huge presence of these massive columns of infantry and tanks heading off into battle right next to you, but still. Here is also where you're introduced to your character and his squad mates. You're Nichols, and this is your squad mate Huxley, the exaggerated goofball of the group. You can imagine him as this game's Meryl Streep. Really, all the characters of this game you'll encounter are kind of exaggerated. Like, you got the gruff badass Sergeant McCollin, the no-nonsense by-the-books Corporal Dixon, the idiot radio operator Guzzo who smells and I hate him, and many other characters you'll meet later on. This goes back to what I was talking about with this game feeling like a classic war movie. Although there's definitely character development and arcs these guys go through, it's not really the deepest. More so, these characters are props the game uses to help immerse you in the story, which it does pretty well. A lot of credit goes to the voice actors for bringing these characters to life. Some of the cutscenes can be slightly undercut by the lackluster facial expressions and the aforementioned wonkiness, but they're saved by how well these guys deliver their lines.
Guys! We got ourselves a tunnel here!
Looks like we got a way out. All right, we're bugging out. Move!
We'll continue this later.
Nichols, let's go.
And besides the main cast, the voices for the German AI is really good too. I can't understand a lick of it, but I could hear these guys' lines in a vacuum and still know they came from this game. After going through a pretty simple but effective tutorial, you're all loaded onto a truck to head out to engage the Germans. The mood is pretty cheery and upbeat, the guys are exchanging banter, joking around, and then there's this, slow-ass private chasing the truck and you're goofing with them. Must have been a woman driving, am I right? Gamers? You awaken from your crash to see a full-scale battle going down. You've got German machine gun bullets whizzing overhead, everyone's in a panic. Oh baby, it's go time. Over the top, let me get at those Kraut boys, and you can't sprint in this game. This may seem a little jarring if you played the other modern COD games, but yeah, in the original trilogy you didn't sprint. Or well, you didn't sprint in the campaign, because for some reason sprint's right here in the multiplayer, but not in the main game, but that sort of thing just doesn't bother me. It doesn't get to me, some shit happens. 1 minute something's there, and the next it's gone. Even though this may seem like a detriment, I think it actually works well with the level design to offer you a more strategically minded first-person shooter experience. In other COD games, it feels a lot easier to go full Rambo, running around all over the place, evading gunfire through quick maneuvers, and if you screw up and pop out too soon, you've got a decent chance of diving back into cover without much loss. But in this game, it punishes you if you try doing something like this. If you try to rush out without dealing with the enemy, you need to get back into cover immediately, if not sooner, or you're shit out of luck. So with these constraints, you begin realizing you need to be more mindful of your environment, taking cover and dispatching enemies before moving up, or carefully surveying the area and deciding which route is the safest to take. It's kind of like if you've ever been to the grocery store and it's like, I gotta get to the cottage cheese, but there's like some old woman just standing there. And it's a societal norm. I get it. I have to wait. I can't just barge my way in. But I see the big curds right there. Let me get at that cheese. Alright, Call of Duty. Another mechanic you'll notice by the start of the tutorial is this game has an aim assist feature. When your reticle is near an enemy that's not too far away, it will instantly snap onto them with minimal adjustment required. I don't love this kind of thing in most games, especially as like a default play setting, but it's slightly excused as an early 2000s SPS game. Especially when your controller starts to get really worn down and can't do the precise adjustments it used to. That being said, it feels especially cheap when it can lock onto enemies through obstacles or through smoke. This assist feature can even throw you off a bit at first when you're used to manually aiming, as you'll go to quickly shoot a guy and overcorrect or lock onto a completely different dude. It also affects the way you approach some encounters. Instead of holding an angle while aiming down sights, you might just choose to bob in and out of cover, letting the aim assist feature net you some easy headshots. I would have preferred if this was an optional thing to turn on the settings rather than the default intended way to play. But besides all of that, St. Lo is a great opening level and a fantastic example of some of Call of Duty 3's greatest strengths. This level's like Vince Vaughn, it's cool and underappreciated. Just wanted to get that off my chest. After breaking through the German positions around the church, you move into the town. There's some small scripted moments here that help cement the atmosphere and familiarize yourself with the controls before you move to clear a house. For your first playthrough, this moment is pretty intense. There's this feeling of helplessness from not having direct control over your own character, and then they rapidly flash these button prompts on screen you need to input to successfully get through the encounter. I know generally people don't seem to like QuickTime events, but I think here it works. It captures that feeling of not having time to think and just needing to quickly respond. It was wise to place this encounter early on, so now you're going to be a lot more tense moving forward, since this kind of thing could happen at any time. The effect is gone once you've come back to replay it as many times as I have, but it's still nice to remember how it used to feel. We move from that scene right into another street fight, but this time, you're on the back of a Sherman tank, directing orders to Guzzo to help spot targets. And in case you're morally conflicted with who to support, the developers kindly put the big no-no flag right next to them to help make the distinction. We in the business call that pattern recognition, alright? I got a C in Psych 101, I know what I'm talking about. These may seem like insignificant little distractions from the main game, but personally I love any game that throws in a variety of gameplay styles, which we'll see expanded upon even more in later missions. I think small things like this also help you feel immersed in the world. You're a soldier, you're part of a unit, you're doing a small task that helps big things get accomplished. It's storytelling! There's not too much of the level after this. You're given a fake-out ending to the level before having to hold out against swarms of German troops with your buddies, ultimately overcoming the odds. Just a solid start to the game.
Guzzo, radio division. We've taken Saint-Lô.
Following a couple cutscenes, we get right into our next mission, tasked with advancing into the French countryside to capture some German positions. The rain effects are a nice change of scenery, and the larger open level design. The large open level. The large open level. A lasting order cannot be established by bayonets. More like a good, long-lasting game. A good game cannot be made. This is hard. Okay, now admittedly, I am playing on hard mode. Well, because that's just the type of gamer I am, right? I live for the danger. I'm a bit of a maverick, a bit of a rebel. I cross streets without looking. I chew on raw clams like they're gum. Yep. But like, if Saint-Lô is Vince Vaughn, this level's like Sylvester Stallone. This level's making sure you know what the hell you're doing, because if you're not playing by its rules, your game ends right here on this hill. Like, we've had our fun, now it's time to get serious. This is a great time to address the enemy AI of Call of Duty 3. These guys are no joke. They rarely miss their shots, they're generally good at utilizing cover, and they all must play professional baseball because if you stay in cover for too long, their grenades will land like right on top of you. And because of the throwback mechanic in this game being kinda awkward and delayed, your chances to react in time are slim. Like I was saying about how this game has a big emphasis on utilizing cover, you need to be mindful of how these guys use it too. They'll leave very little exposed while taking cover, and can be pretty deadly even while blind firing around corners. That means not only is the gunplay very important, but also your projectiles. Grenades are always a good way to dislodge enemy troops, especially when cooked off, and smoke grenades are even more helpful with blinding enemy machine guns or giving you an avenue to move forward. Although another minor complaint I'll throw in here is that the damage you do to these guys can be a little inconsistent with some weapons. Generally I didn't have too many issues with any of the American guns, but there's some submachine guns like the Sten and the MP40 that are like genuinely useless. It feels like I'm just shooting BBs at them. Grenades can be a little inconsistent on damage too, but not as much as the guns can be. With how helpful the enemy AI performs, I bet you're expecting your teammates to be just as helpful, right? These slack-jawed, mouth-breathing goons, bless their heart, can be so frickin' annoying while trying to play. They just rush out in front of you when you're trying to shoot, and like, you guys know me. I like eager men just as much as the next guy, but when I'm trying to shoot at the Jerrys and Guzzo and his big melon are doing everything in their power to block my shot, I get a little peeved. Anyway, following that, you push up behind the German lines and move in to capture a bunker. There's some fun close-quarter combat in here, and after you capture it, it finishes the level. We'll see the Americans again, but I should talk about something I haven't mentioned until now. Call of Duty 3 includes 4 different storylines, told from the perspective of other allied nations, such as the British, French, Canadians, and Polish. This is another great aspect of this game which might go unappreciated if you aren't that interested in history, but the developers could have easily gone the simple route and just made it the Americans versus the Germans. But instead, they opted to include all these lesser appreciated participants who were there in real life. Not only that, but they managed to have a lot of variation with other aspects of this game. You don't just fight the same exact German enemies every mission. Some missions you're against the regular German army, other missions you're fighting paratroopers, and other missions you're fighting grenadiers. And they can all have different equipment depending on who you were fighting. It's a lot like Skylanders and... No, it's not, never mind. They make sure to mix it up for your characters as well, giving you different guns depending on which nation you're playing. This may seem pretty standard, but it was little things like this that just made it feel all the more interesting to me as a kid, like, what are these different countries doing here? What's this gun that's different from the last ones I had? What's this tank? Why are these guys dressed differently? It took my young mind's curiosity and used it to foster a deep appreciation for the history. This is a bit of a tangent, but I think this game instilled a habit in me that I kind of still struggle with, like to shake and all. And that's how I generally try to have historically accurate loadouts in games I play. Like if I'm playing as the Americans in Battlefield or something, then I'll only use American guns. And I'll even actively go out of my way to not have skins or attachments that aren't historically accurate, often to my detriment. Anyway, in the British storyline, you're part of the SAS, elite paratroopers that are tasked with dropping behind enemy lines to support the French resistance. You're introduced to Major Ingram, who's English if you believe in that sort of thing. And this Scotsman here, Corporal Keith, he loves jokes, women, and hating French people. He's there to show us that the writers understand and can relate to the working man. British missions don't just distinguish themselves from the others by their presentation, but also their gameplay. Most missions consist of infiltrating an enemy position to compromise their war effort by destroying something valuable and then quickly making a getaway. Unfortunately, this is where the quick time events aren't implemented so great. These missions usually deal with planting charges, and for some reason they thought it'd be fun to do it manually, rotating the analog stick and pressing random buttons to set the charges. And I think this could work, but there's two issues here. One, you can't fail these. There's no consequence to messing this up. They don't go off prematurely if you put in the wrong input or something. Nothing happens. And two, you're completely invulnerable while setting the charges, so there's absolutely no urgency. You could take a shit and come back and you'd be fine. And I do. It just feels so jarring when all the other gameplay variations of this game are at least somewhat fun or immersive, and then these come out of nowhere and just ruin that. I've heard that on the Wii and PS3 versions of this game, they utilize motion controls, which sounds even worse. Imagine trying to plant the charges while wiggling your Wiimote around and you can't quite find the sensor bar, and then your nunchuck disconnects, so you gotta pull it out and spit on it and plug it back in, hoping that'd fix it. Yeah, that's what I did to my nunchucks. I don't know why I did that. They're all rusted to shit now. I'd like to use motion controls in this situation if you catch what I'm throwing. There's another really bad one during the third US mission where you gotta row a boat across the water like we're playing Sea of Thieves or something, and as a kid, I found it next to impossible because I couldn't understand they wanted me to rotate the stick halfway instead of a full rotation because I was a big dumb idiot. These weird action sequences just don't blend well with the rest of the gameplay. They're just there because the devs felt like it. I'm gonna tilt the screen 30 degrees, because I felt like it. Just like Bill Clinton felt like lying to the American people. Thankfully, the rest of the storyline's gameplay is held up by just some solid gunplay levels and these big driving segments. These are pretty fun. You're driving around the French countryside, down all these roads, evading German tanks and enemy gunfire, trying to escape before you're surrounded. These stages used to be extremely difficult for me when I was younger, because, I couldn't realize you could go into third person, but, now that I can, they're some of my favorite missions in the whole game. There's even one mission towards the end of the campaign where you get to drive around in a small open world sort of map as you rescue POWs from a French village. It isn't too expansive or anything, but it's just a really cool inclusion. I appreciate little stuff like that. The other main storyline is about the Canadians, and, I don't like these very much. They're fine, but they offer the least amount of gameplay variety out of all the others, and the characters are just more exaggerated versions of characters we already know. These guys got a radio man just like Guzzo, except this guy's a massive wuss, and a commander who hates him, which is already the dynamic we had with the Americans. It's just needless retreading. It's like when a really good movie gets a sequel, and in the first one, they all live happily ever after, and then in the sequel, they just reset it and do the same exact shit all over again. Ghostbusters 2. These missions are Ghostbusters 2, and we don't even have Dan Aykroyd. They also definitely have the worst level design compared to any of the other missions. Level 1 is this big segment in this factory that is just a complete antithesis to COD 3's gameplay loop. If most of these missions are here on the fun meter, these ones are down here. This entire level takes everything this game taught you so far and has it shot out back. You got these giant exposed lanes of fire you need to advance down with only smoke grenades to use for cover, since the cover you get is just some barrels and you're not allowed to take cover in the buildings on your flanks. At best of all, the MGs tend to just not care about the smoke, so you're trudging around like you've got swamp ass with nowhere to take cover, constantly under fire. It ain't fun. Nothing about this is fun. And Call of Duty 3 in general has a problem with the checkpoints being way too spread out, but it's most noticeable in the Canadian levels. You'll do nearly 10 minutes worth of tasks, you have to plant 3 charges to see off the Germans from advancing on you, and you'll do 2 and die, and then it just resets and you need to do them all again. What's also annoying is these levels don't really introduce any unique gameplay variety. They just kind of combine ideas that were already done in the American and British missions. Sure, you get to ride around an APC and shoot at Germans in this turret section, but that's the extent of it. It feels like these levels were done by their B team or something. They just serve to drag down the experience. So after literally like an hour, I painstakingly finished the first Canadian mission and just feel so defeated. Like, why even bother playing the rest of Call of Duty?
7 kills in as many days.
We're going to need more paint! Later! Air support is arriving. We're pushing into town.
The hunt is on. Ride, Bohater!
This level right here with these characters is the entire reason I kept coming back to 3. After a mission where you felt so fragile, you get to drive a tank and go around blowing up German tanks like it's nothing. And these Polish crewmen are so fun to listen to. Even people who've never played COD 3 might recognize some of these voice lines.
Careful, boys! Tigers have thickest hide and sharpest teeth. Father! Right! We flank them!
But after dispatching with the Germans in the outskirts of town, you push in to come across a King Tiger, led by the very same German commander these guys have been fighting since the start of the war. And with no hesitation, these guys rush in after him.
Hang back, boys! The coward runs! After him!
This chase is exhilarating. You've got German tanks oozing out of every crevice in these tight quarters, leading to some nerve-wracking moments. All the while, Richter's tank is taking pot shots at you from every nook and cranny, but eventually you outmaneuver him and secure the kill. I absolutely adore this mission. I remember as a kid, even years after getting this game, I pop it in just to play this mission. One of the main reasons I loved it so much was because, well, tanks are cool, obviously, but also because it reminded me of that scene in Kelly's Heroes where Oddball and Kelly drive around that French town blowing up tiger tanks. That movie rocks. Sure, it's not the greatest level design in the world, like you pretty much drive in a straight path with some occasional opportunities to get flanks and stuff, but I think it works to help keep up that high-paced momentum. But honestly, for the longest time, that's where Call of Duty 3 ended for me. Because whenever I tried to play the missions after this one, it wouldn't load. I guess we got our game used from GameStop or something, but yeah, I never got to play the rest of Call of Duty 3 until a few years ago when I saw a cheap copy at a flea market among some DVDs. Right next to Norbit. And once I got around to playing the rest of the game, I really wish I had experienced it sooner. The remaining levels are all to cap off each respective storyline, coming together all for one last battle against the Germans to determine the fate of the Normandy campaign. These are all solid gunplay levels. Hell, even the Canadian one is pretty damn good and has some cool character moments with their commander. You even get to see the Polish guys again, although it's unfortunately not a tank mission and some of the characters have some unsatisfying deaths. But out of all the ending missions, the one I wish I had played as a kid was Closing the Gap. This is like a flip of the script compared to the first St. Lo mission. You guys are the ones trying to hold the city as the whole of the German army is coming down around you. You get pushed back further and further into the city, moving around at different flanks to head off the German advance. Then, after rescuing Guzzo from certain death, Sergeant Dixon is shot and killed right in front of you. Again, I'm not going to pretend this is an expertly written drama, but I'd also be lying if I said I didn't feel something here. In my head, this guy was immortal, because I never got to the ending to see that he didn't make it, so that illusion I had since I was a kid was just completely shattered in front of me. You don't have time to take it in, though, since you're informed that more Germans are heading your way across town. That's when everyone rallies around Guzzo and you head to meet the enemy. You beat them back out of the city center and take on their entire force head-on, dealing with overwhelming odds, but then you prevail. The game ends showing you a reimagined version of the intro cinematic with the US Army liberating Paris. We then see Guzzo has taken the role of Sergeant, completing his character arc going from the cowardly, stubborn private to a determined, experienced leader.
One rule: you're no good to me dead.
What kind of pep talk was that? You want inspiration, Private? Read a poem.
With all this love and praise I've given this game, you must be wondering, why is this game so obscure compared to the others? Well, it's sandwiched between what are arguably two of the best first-person shooters of all time. Call of Duty 2 was immensely popular and praised, and then Modern Warfare came out just a year after 3 and took the franchise to new heights it had never seen before. Also, Treyarch made a much more iconic World War II COD game right after that with World at War. Compared to its siblings, this game just didn't do enough to innovate or differentiate itself, so when new installments were added to the series, this one was seen by most critics to just not have aged the best. This is reflected whenever you see people ranking the series today, where 3 is usually put as a buffer between the bad games of the series and the good ones, being disregarded as just a forgettable little time waster. But I think that's a huge disservice to this game. I'd go as far to say this game is one of the most distinct personalities compared to any other entry in the series. But that kind of thing just doesn't really translate to game sales. Like, do you think 11-year-old Justin from school cares that COD 3 has better characters than the one he can play online and shout slurs into? I don't know, he's been missing for 15 years. But besides that, it's just a really fun game I got a lot of fond memories with. Like, don't get me wrong, it's no Rob Schneider Combat Evolved, but it's definitely not a game I think deserves to be forgotten. I have so many great memories with this game. Like, I remember playing this game split-screen multiplayer with my friends on New Year's right after we got it. It was so much fun. The little maps they had were like little sandboxes. They have so much variety in the weapons and the vehicles, it's just a blast. Like, you can drive around in cars and tanks and stuff, something I wish more COD games still included, like basically Call of Duty Halo Forge mode or something. This is what I consider to be my first video game. I played others before it, sure, but like, this was the first game where it felt like it belonged to me alone, because I was the only one that really wanted to play it. I think this game did a lot to shape the person I am today. Someone who has a great fondness for not only video games, but for history too. So if you get the chance, check out COD 3. It's a fun time, and I hope I was able to show you why I like it so much while still being a little entertaining along the way. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.